I am delighted to be joined by Neil Wilkie. Welcome to the presenter's hot seat, if you like. You are presenting at the NLP conference this year, and your topic is the power of pivotal relationships in organisations, which sounds very intriguing. So do start by telling us a little bit more about yourself and your presentation.
Thank you, Karen. I'm looking forward to the presentation. So, bit about myself. So I'm older than I might look. I hope I'm older than I might look. I've been in the world of NLP probably for about 17 years. So before that, I was in business and successful but unfulfilled. And then my moment of significant change, I guess, came when I first went on an NLP taster program. And I thought, wow, this is a really powerful way of understanding myself. Is also a really powerful range of tools to help other people change. So my journey really started then, and I realized I needed to be on a different track. So I sold my businesses and retrained as a psychotherapist, with NLP being an important part of my toolkit. And I started working with successful but unhappy business owners, and many of them have been really focused on making money, buying the Ferrari, buying the big house, but fundamentally were unhappy. And it was a really privileged position to be in, to have them coming to me and to help unwind what it was about their life that had been taking them in this direction, and helping them work out what actually they wanted to get fulfillment. And that led me into the field of relationships, partly because of my own experience of relationship difficulties, but also as part of working with these successful people. Generally, their relationships at work and at home were not good either, because they've been so focused on money, more money, even more money. So I started to look at what would help people understand how to have a good relationship, and what would help people work on their own relationships. And that's what I've been doing with couples for the last 15 or so years. And that's what I've been doing in business for a few years too. And what I guess was another significant fact for me was getting married in 2017. And my wife Gwen and I were on honeymoon, sailing a small boat in the Caribbean, and she started asking me questions, because she, amongst other things, is a coach and an NLP master practitioner. And she said, "Tell me about this book that you are planning on writing." And I thought, yeah, I know I've said I'm going to write a book, but what the hell is it going to be about? Is it going to be about my experience in business, which might have been vaguely interested? Would it be about my own life, which probably wasn't that interesting either? Or would it be about relationships? And I started to think, what had I learned in all those years of working with couples in relationships? What were the key elements in a successful relationship? And it came to me in the sunshine, sailing along in a beautiful breeze, that there were 6 key elements to a relationship. And these were all factors which had gone wrong in couples I'd been working with. And I realized that of all the books I've bought on relationships, and must be well over 100, they were written as textbooks. If you do X, then Y will follow. And I thought a different approach is needed. So I thought, okay, I'm going to write a book on relationships. And that book is going to be written from different perspectives of each of the couple, because in any relationship, there is no reality, there is only perception, and the perception can be very different, but equally correct. But it'll be interesting to each chapter to alternate between one and the other, and to allow people to understand how the same thing can be seen in very different ways.
Yeah.
But underpinning all this was the relationship paradigm, which has 6 key elements: communication, connection, commitment, fun, growth, and trust. And those were the 6 key elements I've learned from my work, were what would need in a good relationship. And by chunking down into 6 elements, it would allow couples just to calibrate where they were at, which of those elements needed work, and then to be able to calibrate what progress was being made. So that was my significant moment in 2017. And I thought, okay, I've got the idea. Now I need to start writing a book. And the book started being written in 2018 when we were on the Queen Elizabeth II, I think, coming back from New York in a hurricane.
Oh,
So there was
goodness.
sitting up front, typing away, while Gwen was horizontal, not being able to cope with force 10 and 11 winds. So
Yes.
that's where it all started. And yeah, that has proceeded. I've written the second book. I've written something like 370 articles on relationships. And it was last year I started thinking, how well would this apply in the business world? Because my experience of business is that what was key to having a successful business was culture. Having a great culture created success. And as Stephen Drucker, the management writer, said, culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Right.
And I've worked with many businesses where they've gone on away days, away weeks, they've come up with a culture, mission, purpose, and they've had these nice statements in their reception area saying, our purpose is X, our mission is Y, and our culture is Z. But did they really live that culture? And I realized that what actually creates a great culture is strong relationships.
Yes.
And what creates strong relationships is communication, connection, commitment, fun, growth, and trust.
Yeah.
And that applies equally well in the business world to couple relationships. And so many of the CEOs I've worked with, their problems at work have been about relationships, often with colleagues, people who work for them, or suppliers, investors, etc. And often they just have got no idea how to deal with it. They hope the problem will go away because it's all a bit too soft and difficult. So I thought, okay, the relationship paradigm will help them to understand where the problem is and what they can do to start to change that. And if they can start to create better relationships, then they will create a stronger culture, and that culture will create more success. So it's a perfect circle.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And how wonderful that you can just take that and just transition it into a different context as well.
Absolutely. So, quite magical, that moment of realization.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you've already alluded to this, but what will delegates take away from your session, Neil?
First of all, they'll get an understanding of the model and what the elements are and how they can start to look at their own relationships, their own pivotal relationships with clients they might have or organizations they work in, to understand how to see where those relationships are working well and where they're not working well, and then start to work on how to improve it. Then they will get an understanding of the importance of pivotal relationships, because you can look at the mass of relationships and say, yes, those are good, or yes, those aren't good, but you really need to understand each element and each participant in it to look at each of the pivotal relationships, because focus is often on team working in an organization. It's rarely on one-on-one relationships. And a great team can be destroyed just by one person.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's very insightful. So is there anything that delegates can do before your session to give them a sort of a deeper understanding or deeper experience of your session?
They could look at one of my websites, relationshipsinbusiness.com. There is a quiz on there they can take to assess the state of pivotal relationships in an organization. It's a very quick and easy test to do, which will give them a flavor of how good the pivotal relationships are. Right. But also just to think about clients they've got, organizations they work with or in. What are the relationships like? What is the culture like? how does it feel when they walk into the offices, and what does that do for them? What that might be doing for people who work there?
Yeah.
Do they feel part of an organization, or do they just feel like it's a transactional relationship?
Yeah. Very, very good things to reflect upon, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you, and it's got me thinking already. So I'm ready and waiting for your session in May. So Neil, you've presented at the conference before, and we had a very insightful presentation about the personal relationships. So what does the NLP International Conference mean to you?
What I love about the NLP conference is the fascinating mixture of open-minded people who are wanting in their own ways to make the world a better place. And the conversations that I have every year take me to fascinating places. The people I meet, the people I can help, and the people who can help me help develop understanding of the world, help develop understanding of what can be done to change the world. And what I love about the NLP community is this open-mindedness. It's not fixed in aspect like so many therapeutic models are. It's constantly changing, evolving, and it's a big umbrella. NLP I still find impossible to define because it's ever growing.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So thank you, Neil. Just to remind everybody, Neil is presenting at the NLP conference. You're presenting at the virtual element of the conference, which is spread over 2 weekends, on Saturday, the 20th of May. And your presentation, it starts at 15:30, and that's BST, British Summer Time. It'll be a bit warmer by then, hopefully. So thank you so much, Neil, for taking the time to explain a little bit more today about your presentation, which is the power of pivotal relationships in organisations. And I'm really looking forward to hearing more about that in May.
Thank you, Karen.